What's happening, Bengals fans? It's Inside the Jungle right here at CincyJungle.com, a special edition. Normally we record this show on Wednesday nights. We moved it up to Monday night so that you could download this podcast on Tuesday, September 30th, in celebration of National Podcast Day. That's right, we're celebrating the first ever National Podcast today, National Podcast Day tonight here at CincyJungle.com. Glad you could join us. A special bye week. I don't know what you want to call it, Scott. A bye week recap, I guess you could say. We welcome you back after we had you very, 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 very briefly last Wednesday night, but we're glad to have you back on the program. What's up, man?
Not much. Good to be back. Luckily, I don't have to do any late minute runouts on you this week. Here all night.
Did you enjoy your bye week? Is the biggest thing I want to know.
I hate the bye week. I get all excited for football. You know, especially an early bye week. It was good for the injuries, but man, it's just like it feels like something's missing.
It does. The video, it's I found myself on Sunday watching a little bit of the Red Zone channel and I just wasn't into it. I kind of got into seeing some of the other results. I saw Baltimore whooping up on the Panthers, which is intriguing in the sense that the Bengals are going to be playing both those teams here coming up. But it was also great to see Pittsburgh lose to the Pittsburgh lose to the Bucs. So we'll get into that. We'll also look ahead to Sunday's game, huge game against the New England Patriots. The Bengals obviously had a week to prepare and get rested and get some healthy guys back that we'll look forward to seeing Sunday night in Foxborough as they travel up to take on the Patriots. Love to hear from you, though, Bengals fans. 404-946-3397 is the number to call, or if you're outside the country, Skype us at Inside the Jungle. Let's talk a little bit, Scott, about what's going on with the Bengals as far as the injuries go. It sounds like they're going to be relatively healthy heading into Sunday night's game.
Yeah, I think the big one getting back is Marvin Jones. Sanu's done well in his absence, but Marvin Jones gives them a little different aspect than Sanu does, and the nice thing about that is you can move Sanu now into the slot, which I think suits him better, and it should open up the playbook a little bit as well, open up the middle of the field with Jones' speed on the outside. So that would be big. From all indications, our Vontaze Burfict should be able to play all game, which would be a good thing. We haven't seen that yet this year. The defense has held up well in his absence, but certainly it's better with Vontaze Burfict than without Vontaze Burfict. So, getting some guys back healthy. I don't know. Have you heard anything about Brandon Thompson, if he's going to be healthy?
I haven't heard much about him. I did see very briefly, just before we went live, some tweets that it sounds like Burfict will be okay to go Sunday night, which is good. And, they held him out at the end of the game against the Titans, probably not by his choice. Then obviously when you take the week off, I think that's always a good thing when it comes to head injuries and concussions. So, but no, I have not heard anything about Thompson. But you're right. It seems like Jones and Burfict are the two right now that they're going to get back, which they'll be pretty happy about.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the season I hated seeing the bye week so early, but it just so happened to work out perfectly for this team with the injuries that they had going on. This bye week couldn't have come at a better time for some of those guys to get an extra week of rest. Yeah,
when we first did our predictions, I think we all kind of agreed that the bye week being so early, will it come back to bite them later in the year when they have guys that are injured that they need to get back, or just basically to be fresh for the stretch run. But the good news is, did you see who else they had a bye week with, Scott? They had a bye week with the Broncos. Not that the Browns are going to be of big importance, but when it comes to playing in the AFC North, it's always good. They will play the Browns later in the year as well, so they'll be facing the same kind of scenario where guys are going to be maybe a little worn down come December.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. Like you said, it could end up hurting them, not having a bye week later in the year. But, at first look, having it early this year happened to work out for them, so far.
We're getting a couple questions here in the chat room. Kirk Campbell wants to know, who do we root for tonight? Kansas City for Mickey, And Scott and I, we were kind of discussing this off the air. I think we're in agreement that we want New England to win tonight. We don't want them coming off a loss. That's the last thing the Bengals want.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually typing in the chat room at the same time and accidentally typed Kansas City. But yeah, you're right. I don't mind what I actually type. Yeah, you're right. I definitely want to see New England win. Last thing I want to see is getting to play Belichick and Brady after a loss, because you and I were talking about that. New England doesn't lose 2 games in a row very often, so you do not want to play them after a loss. And so I would much rather see New England win and look pretty good actually this game.
Yeah, I don't want I don't want them coming into that game Sunday night angry. They're already going to have the revenge factor from a year ago on their minds, and so now you couple that in. If they lose tonight in Kansas City, then have to make the trek home, get home late on a short week, which means they're going to be even more focused. I'd much rather see them playing a New England team that kind of won big tonight and maybe getting a little ahead of themselves.
No doubt.
Though again, Bengals fans, we'd love to hear from you. Get in touch with us. 404-946-37 is the number to call. If you want to get in touch with us via Skype, you can as well. Inside the Jungle is the Skype line. Let's take a look now at some of the other results around the AFC. One of the more impressive wins on Sunday, Scott, was the Ravens' dismantling of the Panthers. Now, that's 2 losses in a row from the Panthers against AFC North opponents. I think that bodes well for the Bengals coming up. But to see the Ravens after their opening week loss to the Bengals, now they're on a 3-game winning streak and looking pretty good. We must have caught them at the perfect time.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to make of the Ravens right now. They're definitely playing better than I thought they would, especially with all the controversy that was swirling around. I guess you could see that going one of 2 ways, but I thought. I'm still not sold on them, but I will admit I watched a lot of that game on Sunday, and they did look impressive. Now, I myself am not a big Cam Newton or Panthers fan. I actually picked them to go 6-10 and finished last in the division. So I think they're a bit overrated. But either way, 38-10, that's impressive no matter who you play.
Let's hit up the Jungle line. This is our count. John from Kentucky, what's happening, man?
Hey, what's happening, Nick? Am I coming through pretty clear?
You sound like you're far away from your computer, but we got you. What's up, man?
Okay, well, I'll lean a little forward and talk a little louder. Well, look, I don't mean to be too negative or pessimistic, but the last time the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, Nick, I was 21 years old. And my fiance at the time, who was a 49ers fan, kind of rubbed it in my face that we lost. Anyway, I didn't stay married to her too long.
I was just about to say, that's awfully rough, man.
Yeah. We live nowhere near San Francisco either, so I couldn't figure that out. But anyway, I do remember specifically within 3 years, Paul Brown, Sam Weiss, Boomer Esiason, James Brooks, Anthony Munoz, Max Montoya, the cream of the crop of the team was gone. Now, I just want your opinion, Nick. If Cincinnati does go to the Super Bowl, or even if they win a playoff game this year, do you see this team being dismantled in a few years, or do you see it continuing to get better and build properly the way Pittsburgh and Baltimore have? Please tell me the latter.
Well, you have to also there are a number of different factors in there, John. What happened the last time the Bengals won the Super Bowl? I believe Paul Brown died shortly thereafter that. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So you factor that in with a Mike Brown, a brand new owner trying to make his name in the game and do things his way. And I think he found out that his way doesn't work. So I think from that standpoint, you're going to see. Look, the Super Bowl is way down the road. But if you want to play the hypothetical game, I get it. I would say there's no way that would happen again. They've got too many guys under contract, too many young guys under contract that I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking that too. Mike Brown, he's no longer in the picture really. So I don't see the team, being taken apart. I never saw a team, by the way, that had gone to a Super Bowl. And in 3 years, I think their record, it was either 2-14 or 4-12. It was bad, and we all know for the next 10 years they were just lost. You know, I never saw a Super Bowl team end up like that in such a short time. But I don't think that's going to happen myself, and I just wanted to get your opinion on that. The team does look very good. I've just been burnt by them so many times. You know, I'm still not quite ready to lay down money on them, put it that way. So, but I think they'll win Sunday night. I do. I wouldn't put money on them, but I do think they win, and I think they win pretty big. I'm getting ready to turn on the Patriots and Chiefs game here in a little while and see what's up there. But Cincinnati, I've just kind of got this inkling. They might be as good as the 85 Bears. Notice I said might, and I say that because they've had these players on the bench, some of their best players, yet they're still dominating people with their second string. You know, I think a good coach doesn't need to really look at his first string. You know, I mean, I know what Andy Dalton can do. I know what A.J. Green can do. They don't have to prove nothing to me. What can Jason Campbell do? What can Brandon Tate do? Well, Jason Campbell hasn't been in much yet. I would like to see him in some this season. I don't want him to end up like John Kitna in the playoffs, you know, a few years back, where when Palmer went down, Kitna came in. He hadn't taken a snap all season. And now he's against the Pittsburgh Steelers of all people. So I do want to see Campbell, you know, I want to see what he can do.
I don't want to see Jason Campbell at all, John. I want Andy Dalton in there.
Well, of course we want Dalton in there. If Dalton goes down, what can Campbell do? That's the question. Do you want the guy just in there totally lost? I mean, I think he needs a little bit of playing time. Now, they did give him some, what was it, last week against the Titans. So he did play a little bit. We won't be able to say that Campbell hadn't taken a snap all season if Dalton goes down. Look, Nick, Cincinnati is not a name, and people don't like the Bengals in the media. And other teams can take a cheap shot against Dalton and get away with it somewhat, okay? I'm just a little concerned about that. Teams don't like being embarrassed by Cincinnati, and I'm just a little leery. I remember what happened to Carson Palmer. I'm just saying.
John, I'm gonna pull the reins back here a little bit and just.
Okay.
They're 3-0, man. They're just relax. They're 3-0 and in first place and looking good. Let's be positive, man. Come on.
Okay. All right.
I love your passion, though, John. I really do.
I'm just trying to be realistic. That's all I'm trying to be. You know, I mean, just be prepared, okay? Keep your armor on, and the whole team needs to play well, not just your superstars. And I think they're doing that right now.
I hear you. Cautious optimism with this team is certain is a necessity. I certainly agree with you, John.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks for taking my call, Nick. And I'll be back in the room typing and whatnot. And I'll say for now, hoo-day.
Hoo-day. That's Sean from Kentucky, starting us off with a bang. I appreciate it, John.
Okay.
If you want to get in touch, 404-946-3397 is the number to call. Inside the Jungle's our Skype line as well. Look, and as a Bengals fan now for going on 30 years myself, Scott, I can understand from a Bengals fan perspective the need to kind of put up that barrier so that you can avoid the letdown. You know what I mean? We've seen it time and time again, especially in the Marvin Lewis era, that, you know, we can think that things are going to go the way we want them to, but then at the end of the day, it comes down to the players, and you know, it's just maybe it's just not their time. But it's like that wound is just really, it's just like right there on the surface, Scott. He doesn't want to peel that Band-Aid off, which I totally get.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think no Bengals fan is ever comfortable with this franchise. I love John's passion, but you know, at some point in time, you've kind of just got to enjoy the ride. I mean, geez, especially being a fan of this organization, you've enjoyed a stretch here of a couple years where they haven't won a playoff game. But come on, Nick, I mean, when's the last time the answer is never. The Bengals went to 4 of 5, playoffs 4 of 5 years, 3 years in a row. I mean, the fact of the matter is, this is a good team. Mike Brown, you hit it nail on the head. Last time when that team got dismantled, it was Mike Brown just starting out. He had a whole different philosophy. He seems to have righted the ship. Maybe that's because he's no longer steering the ship. But either way, they've built this organization the right way. Lewis has done a very good job with personnel. Duke Tobin's done a good job with personnel. They're drafting well. They spend smartly in the off season. They re-sign the guys. They're key to the team. So I just don't see them falling off. I understand his hesitancy to trust in this management, but man, you got to enjoy the ride after a bit. We're 3-0, man.
3-0, 3 straight postseason appearances, 4 postseason appearances out of the last 5 seasons. There's a lot to like about this team, and I understand we all want to see postseason wins. Nobody wants to see that more than me, but you can't win a postseason game unless you get there, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
so, look, I don't want to look too far down the road. The biggest and most important game of the season right now is Sunday night in New England. That's all that
Yep.
they should be worried about. That's all we as fans should be focused on. And look, I love the hypothetical and I love looking ahead, but it's just one game at a time. And it's so cliche to say that. I know that, but one game at a time. You worry about the next opponent. Worry about the next practice. I mean, that's really the way they should look at it. Get better with each practice. And
you know what?
things
If
will
they
take
get
care
to
of
the Super
themselves.
Bowl, if they get to the Super Bowl, Nick, you know what? Not that I want to see them dismantle, but man, if they get to the Super Bowl, I'm going to be a happy fan. Sure, I want to see them win it, but man, if they got the Super Bowl, I'd be one happy camper.
Absolutely. I think we all would. Again, if you want to get in touch, 404-946-3397 is the number to call. Also, if you want to get in touch, Skype is the account as well, Inside the Jungle. Also, looking around some of the AFC North results, we saw Pittsburgh lose on Sunday to the lowly Tampa Bay Bucks. A Bucks team, Scott, that got absolutely embarrassed, thrashed on Thursday Night Football the week before against a Falcons team who got thrashed by the Bengals. What do you make of the Steelers right now with their early season woes? They did beat the Panthers a couple weeks ago, who we thought was a pretty good team in the NFC, but now the Panthers have kind of fallen back. But to lose at home to the Bucks, that was just mind-boggling.
Yeah, in the words of Dennis Green, the Steelers are who I thought they were. They are a mediocre team. They're going to be. I think they'll be right around 500 all year long. They have weapons on offense, but their offensive line is a little bit iffy. Antonio Brown is a hell of a receiver, but he's a small guy. They don't have a real proven second guy. The run game has looked pretty good so far, but again, it could melt down with that offensive line. The defense is old. And, to be frank, that Tampa Bay team is much better than their record indicates. I had them going 10-6 this year. They got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. A couple breaks in those first 2 games, and that could be a 3-1 team rather than a 1-3 team. So, they look terrible against the Falcons, but every team's going to have that sometime where, it's just not your day. And, they proved this week that was just the case on Thursday night. They just didn't have it. They came back. They looked pretty good in that game. Mike Glennon looked good. I think the Steelers are a mediocre team, and I think the Bucs are probably a mediocre team as well.
They did get 2 solid players in Michael Johnson and Anthony Collins in the offseason, which certainly helped their squad. But I don't know. I guess I'm surprised and shocked to see a Pittsburgh defense on a final drive allow Tampa Bay to march right down the field with ease. That's, I guess, what was so surprising to see. And when it comes time to playing the Steelers down the road, it's going to be a tough game. We all know that these games are always tough. But I guess I like seeing the Steelers struggle. It's been a while since we've seen them look this bad.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay drove right down the field on them the possession before, and ended on 4 and out at about the 10-yard line. So they went right down the field on that defense twice. And like you and I talked about before the show, They still have some playmakers on defense, although a couple of them are injured. But that defense is an aging defense. That's not the same defense that it's been, over the past couple of years. That's not the same Dick LeBeau defense that we're used to. James Harrison is still on that team now, but that's not James Harrison that we're used to seeing. That's the guy we saw last year on the Bengals. So I think the defense actually is the weak part of that team. We're not used to that being the case with the Steelers.
Things are bad when Snoop Dogg is sending Instagram videos out ripping your offensive coordinator with a 15-second video laced with F-bombs.
How many teams does Snoop Dogg root for? I think he has like 5 favorite teams. I thought he was a Raiders fan. I think he's got like 5 teams.
Who knows? Apparently he's a fan of the Steelers, Scott.
Yeah.
Maybe we could sway him, and when we thump the Steelers, he'll come join us.
Maybe when he starts following me on Twitter, then he can jump on the bandwagon.
Oh, that's fantastic. Again, we're here live at CincyJungle.com. If you want to get in touch with us, 404-946-3397 is the number to call. We're celebrating National Podcast Day, which is September 30th. This is a big deal to me. I've been a podcaster since 2005. And I'm glad to see that we're finally getting a day for us podcasters, not just the people that publish and produce these podcasts, but for those of you who consume podcasts. I mean, this is a day we can all celebrate and get behind. So I'm excited to be part of the team over at nationalpodcastday.com to kind of put this together. I'll be honest, the guys, they've done a lot more than I have. I'll be completely honest about that. Steve Lee has done a fantastic job spearheading this and making this thing really happen. And so major, I cannot give him enough kudos. He's been fantastic. Also, I gotta give a shout out to my wife as well. She's been doing the graphics for the website. So my lovely wife Sarah, congratulations on a success there with her graphic design skills. So Scott, do you listen to any other podcasts besides Inside the Jungle? Because I know you are an avid listener of the show that you're on every week.
Absolutely. I can't say that I listen to any consistently, but I have, I do listen to a couple every now and again. I do pick up some of the ESPN podcasts as well, which, in today's day and age, I think the podcasts are, there's so many good ones out there now, national and local. So, it's great what you do as well.
I'm a big fan of some of the NPR podcasts. There's a show every week called Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and it's like it's not really a trivia game, so to speak, but it's just all the news headlines from that week, and they kind of it's a comedy show, which is kind of fun, and they sort of tie it into a game show type thing, which is always neat. So that's one I listen to. For those of you also know, I'm a huge soccer fan as well. I don't make that a secret here on the show. So I listen to a lot of the English soccer podcasts from across the pond because we don't exactly get that kind of coverage here in the States. So for me to follow up and get my information on Manchester United, who I'm a loyal supporter of, I got to listen to those podcasts as well. And that's the great thing about podcasts. We can reach people from around the world. We've heard it here on this show, right, Scott? We've got loyal fans over in the UK. I know we've got fans in Australia. I think we've got some fans in Serbia, Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's amazing the amount of people and the amount of people that listen to the show and the connections that you can make around the world just by podcasting.
Yeah, it's crazy. Didn't we have someone either typing in or calling in from Japan the other week?
South Korea, yeah.
South Korea. I was going to say it's people like halfway across the world.
And it's all because of podcasting. So my challenge for you this week, Bengals fans, if you're listening, if you're listening to us live, subscribe to a podcast, not just this show. Go out and find another show that you might be interested in, whether it's fantasy football, whether it's news, whether it's comedy. There's a ton of comedy podcasts out there. Just make an effort to go out and to subscribe to these shows. If you subscribe, these things automatically download to your mobile device, and you don't have to worry about checking it or doing anything like that. They'll automatically download. And you can listen at your leisure. I listen to podcasts every night while I'm at work, at my job, because I'm standing on my feet working the machinery, and so that's that helps pass the time. And I know a lot of you sit in cubicles during the day. You may be able to listen to them there as well. It's such an easy thing to get addicted to, and I'm so thankful that I came across this back in '05, believe it or not. I can't believe it's been 9 years. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, Nick, have you ever heard of the podcast You Talking You2 to Me with Adam Scott from Parks and Recreation and Scott, I think his name's Ackerman. It's pretty funny. It's a good listen.
What's it called? You Talk to Me?
No, it's called You Talking You2 to Me, like U2 the group.
Oh, okay.
And they it's based around U2, but they barely ever talk about U2. It's pretty much just two comedians having a good time on the podcast, and they throw in a couple of U2 references every now and again.
Awesome.
Not a bad one.
I'll have to check it out. I know Scott Ackerman does the Comedy Bang Bang podcast, and he's also got a show on, I believe it's the IFC channel, Comedy Bang Bang. Mike Hudson in the chat room has just recommended Scarborough Country, which is the Sklar brothers, the twins. They do a great show as well. I'm also a big fan of the Twit podcasts, This Week in Tech. I learn a lot about Apple and all kinds of technology. The Waves of Tech by Steve Lee is another good show. I believe Steve's in the chat room with us. If it's not Steve, it's his son Dave, but he's in the chat room watching us here. There's so many shows. You can go on and on. But I'd love to hear from you. If you have another podcast that you listen to that you want to recommend to our audience, you can always email us, insidethejungle@spnt.tv. And if you want to, you can also send them to me on Twitter as well, @NickSuberling. I know this is a Bengals podcast, but really this is a celebration of podcasting in general. I'm really excited that September 30th is National Podcast Day. If you couldn't tell already, this is a big day, and I'm really excited about where the day is headed in the future. For more information about National Podcast Day, you can log on to nationalpodcastday.com. We've been going on for about a half an hour. Again, it's the bye week, Scott, and there's not a whole lot we can discuss. We can kind of talk about some of the injuries, which we already have, but one of the biggest things that we do each and every week is we do something a lot of fun, and it's called...
Hey, ladies, quit your babbling, because now's the time in the show when all the boys pull out their cojones and make bold predictions.
Before we get into our bold predictions, Nick in the chat room says, I recommend Beyond the 140. It has a lot of the big Twitter comedians. There's another cool podcast to check out there as well. It's time for bold predictions. We do this each and every week. We go bold with our predictions for this week's game. I'll start with you, Scott. Well, really, I'm starting with you because you're the only one I can start with. What is your bold prediction for Sunday's game against the Patriots?
What better place to start? I'm going to go with maybe not that bold based on the way Brady's playing, but I say Andy Dalton outplays Tom Brady on Sunday night.
Wow, that is bold.
Throws 3 touchdowns. He has 2 touchdowns right now on the season, I believe. He throws 3 on Sunday night and out Brady's Tom Brady.
That's bold. That's real bold. You know why that's bold? Because he is absolutely dreadful in prime games.
Yep, and I'll probably get labeled a Dalton lover. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Me and Mickey will be in Dalton's corner.
That's a bold prediction. I hope you're right, though. I think that'd be fantastic. And we also discuss off the air, too. The Bengals historically in the Marvin Lewis era don't do well coming off the bye. So couple that with the fact that Dalton in primetime doesn't usually look good. That's why it's a bold prediction. I like it, though. I do. Yep. That is bold. Mickey's bold prediction this week, he says the Bengals get 6 sacks. 6. Now, have you seen the Patriots' offensive line? They have not been very good this year.
Yeah, I don't, based off being in a couple of these Patriots games so far, I'm not sure how bold that is. It's definitely possible.
6 sacks for Mickey. That's his bold prediction. If I have to give a bold prediction, and I guess I'm going to piggyback on some of the other bold predictions we've had this year regarding the running backs. I think the way to beat Tom Brady is to keep him off the field. run the freaking ball. Just run it, and just pound the rock, man. I think Hill and Bernard both have over 75 rushing in this game, which means they would have 150 as a team. Now, that leads me to an email we got this week from Steve from Indiana. He was concerned about where this offensive line is headed. He writes, despite the success of the offense and overall great play by the O-line, Giovanni Bernard is only averaging 3.4 yards per carry. Should that be a concern or not? Thank you for the great podcast. That's from Steve from Indiana. So my bold prediction, I think they rush for 150 yards this week against the Patriots, Scott. But what do you make of the offensive line and the low average from Bernard as far as the running game goes? Because he is making an impact in the passing game.
Right. Yeah. I think that's where he's had a good year so far. But you're right. It's mainly been from the passing aspect. And I touched on this last week, and went back and forth a little bit in the comments on an article I wrote. That's definitely a concern to me with Bernard. More so for the fact that Hill's numbers are actually really good. Hill's numbers, he's averaging 5+ yards per carry. So, I'm not so sure it's the offensive line as much as is Gio not picking the hole quick enough? Is he doing a little too much dancing? Or is it teams are keying on him a bit more than they are on Hill? I'm not really sure, but you certainly want to see that average up above 4. I think Hugh Jackson said before the season, if this team wasn't averaging 4.5 yards per carry, then you got to ask yourself what's wrong. Well, right now they're averaging about 3.6. So, they're getting it done with Hill, but they're not getting it done with Gio. And the offense becomes even more dangerous when Hill is a dual threat as far as running and in the passing game. And right now, the run game is not that big of a threat with Gio.
I don't have the numbers to back this up, Scott, but I'd have to take a look at some of the film as well. But if I'm not mistaken, it seems though Bernard's runs are more stretch plays, more to the outside, maybe pitches, even the read option a little bit more, whereas Hill's runs seem to be more up the middle with the lead blocker, fullback, or with the guard pulling, creating that space in the offensive line there. Maybe that's why his numbers are a little bit better, because he is running more straightforward rather than side to side like Bernard.
Yeah, and you may be right. I was taking a look the other day, and I don't think Gio's had a run over 12. You would expect that, with however many carries he has this year, that at some point in time he would have busted one for a decent gain. But I think his longest run is 12 or 15 yards. So, you'd like to see him spring him loose, and maybe you're right. Maybe his runs are more, being strung outside, and that's what's causing his numbers to be a bit lower.
We appreciate the email, Steve from Indiana. Again, if you want to get in touch, insidethejungle@spnt.tv is the email address. And since we are recording the show a little bit earlier in the week, feel free to email us your bold predictions, and we'll take a look back at those on next week's show. We won't have a show Sunday night due to me having to work third shift. I won't be able to get the night off, so I won't be able to do a post-game show, which is unfortunate. But then again, it will be probably close to midnight on the East Coast. I can't imagine there'd be a lot of you wanting to call in and voice your opinions after that game. But we'll definitely be back on the air next week on Wednesday night here at CincyJungle.com. Looking at some of the other bold predictions here in the chat room, Mike Hudson says Darrelle Revis with 0 interceptions, 0 passes defensed, 2 pass interference calls, and allows 2 touchdowns. That's his bold predictions. Nick also gave us an update too as far as the after the bye week resume for Marvin Lewis. He's 5-6 and 2-1 after the bye with Andy Dalton. So there you have it. If I gave my 150-yard bold prediction. Give me a score prediction, Scott, for Sunday night's game against the Patriots.
Ooh.
And see, this is why the chat room is awesome. You just updated the stats. It's 4-6-1.
4-6
and 1 draw. I said draw like this is soccer. That one tie against Donovan McNabb and the Philadelphia Eagles, a very famous tie.
Right. Yep. McNabb was not aware of that tie. Let's see. Score. I like the Bengals to score a lot of points on the Patriots defense. I'm going to go 34-20. 26.
Wow, that's awful. That's a big time. I don't know if I could see them getting 34 points, but you're on the same lines as Mickey. Mickey's predicting a 34-20 win for the Bengals this Sunday night. I'm looking back at last year's result. I believe it was 13-6 was the final. It was a very low defensive game, not a lot of scoring. The weather obviously played a factor as well. I'm going to go low. I think it's going to be something like 17-7, 17-10 as your final score. I think the Bengals win. And a closer than people are expecting kind of game. I know a lot of folks in the chat room think that we should be able to blow out the Patriots. A lot of that depends on what happens tonight against Kansas City, but I think this will be a defensive, hard-fought game. So I'll say 17. I'll go 17-10 for the Bengals to win Sunday night in Foxborough. Again, we'd love to hear your feedback, though. Inside the Jungle at spnt.tv is the email address. It's kind of a short show this week, Scott. The bye week does that, man.
Yeah, coming off the bye week, not a whole lot to talk about. You know, and go on so long about injuries.
Injuries and bold predictions and score predictions. Nick says in the chat room he's going 31-12. Brett Bradford's giving a score prediction of 17-13 Bengals as well. Final thoughts, Scott, as we wrap up episode 165.
You know, it's going to be good to see Marvin Jones back. That's, like I said before, the one I'm looking forward to the most. Be good to get him back on the outside, get the offense a little bit closer to, fully healthy. I'd like to see once Eifert gets back. The other big one I'm waiting on is Brandon Thompson because he makes a big difference in the run game, and I like him as the defensive tackle next to Geno. So, I'm not sure if Thompson's going to play this week or not, but it'll be good to get him back as well.
Injuries, and more injuries. Let's hope they avoid more injuries Sunday night in Foxborough. Glad to have you back, though, after we missed you last week, and I hope you enjoyed your bye week and you're looking forward to Sunday against the Patriots.
Absolutely.
We missed Anthony and Mickey, the background king, and Mr. Beard tonight. Hopefully we'll catch back up with them next Wednesday night right here at CincyJungle.com. We record the show normally every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern at CincyJungle.com. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher Smart Radio, and since it is National Podcast Day, go out and find another podcast. Subscribe to podcast. I'd love to hear your feedback. Email me insidethejungle@spnt.tv and let me know what shows you're subscribing to so that I can listen to some new shows. I'd love to hear what people are listening to these days. That's going to do it. Episode 165 is in the can. Again, if you love what we do here at Inside the Jungle, you can always check out our Patreon campaign over at spnt.tv/Patreon. Special thanks to our associate producers, Andy Lanham, Larry Rolson, Mike Vardy, and Chris Setters. Inside the Jungle is an SPNT production. For more information about our other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv and check out all the Bengals updates this week at CincyJungle.com leading up to Sunday in Foxborough. For Scott, I'm Subes. Happy National Podcast Day, everybody, and hooday!
Hooday! We didn't get our question of the night from Fatal. He must have forgot we were on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be upset when he realizes.
I'll probably get a tweet on Wednesday.
That's right. He and I were going back and forth the other day about whether or not Ray Lewis is a murderer. I think it's just a matter of facts. We're going back and forth on whether or not he's considered a murderer or someone that just covers up murder.
I think it's funny when he says on ESPN, on camera, live on TV, some things you can cover up.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I got a kick out of it. I know that day when they went to him to talk about the Ray Rice thing, and his comment was, his situation is nowhere close to mine, and it's not comparable. I'm thinking, yeah, you're right. Like hitting a woman's terrible. It's not quite as bad as killing some or two people though. I'm thinking. It's like, I mean, he just couldn't understand like why it would be compared to him. I'm thinking, you at worst are aware of who killed two people. So, yeah, but he's making six figures at ESPN.
Yeah, doing nothing. Talking and not making any sense. Yep.
Meanwhile, ESPN fakes anger about the Ray Rice situation while they have him on staff.
Yeah, and suspend Bill Simmons for speaking truth.
Right. Yeah. And they bring Terrell Suggs on First Watch every now and again, and
yeah, he's awful to look at.
Yeah. If you ever read the reports regarding his 3 domestic violence situations, those are disturbing.
Yeah.
Far worse than Ray Rice's. They just don't have video of it.
Oh man. Well, Anthony forgot. He says, I forgot we switched the day. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's all right, AC. But
So
I need to
watch the game on Sunday?
Will I be able to?
Yeah.
Probably not live. I'll probably have to DVR it and come home and watch it when I get back.
Gotcha.
I don't. Yeah, I'll be able to watch like the first. Here's what'll happen. I'll watch because I have to leave at 9:30, so I'll be able to watch like the first hour, which will be like 6 minutes of gameplay, and that'll be enough that'll just make me mad that I'll have to leave, and then just spend the whole time at work just kind of wondering. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than having to miss the game live. Stay off everything on your phone.
Yeah.
It's like so hard not to find out what happened.
It's funny like with soccer because my kids play soccer on Saturday mornings, which is normally around the time that you know what, we didn't do shout outs. Oh, dope. Oh well. Next week. That's normally around the time they're playing the games and my kids have games, so like I'll have to DVR the game, and so like you're right, I have to stay off my phone, and it's easier for that.
Yeah.
But with this, people are going to be tweeting me. It's like I'm going to put the phone on airplane mode, and then I won't be able to listen to the radio on the way home because all the morning shows will be kicking off, and they'll be talking about it. Yeah.
Can't check your fantasy team.
Nope. I'll figure something out though.
There you go.
Well, thank you for hanging out with me this week.
No problem, man. Good show.
And I hope you enjoy National Podcast Day tomorrow.
Absolutely. I might have to go out and find another one to listen to.
So there you go.
I usually listen to a lot of the shows live throughout the day. I listen to like Dan Patrick and Jay Moore.
Gotta love the DP show.
Yep.
Big thanks to everybody who tuned in that's here in the chat room. Thank you for tuning in on this day. I know we changed it up on some folks, so thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next Wednesday night. Hoo day, everybody.
Sounds good. See you, Nick.